All right, folks, we're back. Final three games of the Crescent City Cup 2023. This is round 18 between Conrad Bassett-Bouchard and Rob Robinsky. Conrad
Oh,
probably needing 3 wins to preserve his chances. I don't know. It's going to be tough with so many 11-win players ahead. Once again, Will Anderson here, joined by Jesse Day. Jesse, this is a great matchup for us here.
oh my! I have been hoping to be able to commentate some Conrad action without fanboying too hard. Conrad is different in the sense that he is stylistically an anomaly from other experts. He has gotten to this point by playing tens of thousands of blitz games online from the time he was a teenager. Uncanny understanding of how games will evolve and tactics and strategy. Not as much word focus, more board shape focus. Exceptional defensive player. I think this is going to be a great encounter with Rob right here. Oh man, can't wait.
I mean, you and I both are fanboys of Conrad's style of play, and this, of course, not a controversial choice for him to start. Just bingoing for 70 points. I was a little worried that he hadn't spotted it just from the way he was shuffling his tiles, but I should have known better. Conrad's going to find that word every time, jumping out to a 70-point lead. But yeah, I think of, in Scrabble, you've got play finding and you've got play picking, right? You got to try to find the right plays and then distinguish between them. Conrad is a great play finder, but he is an incredible play picker. A lot of fun to watch him deliberate between those moves that he has spotted. So totally with you on that. Frankly, I think of Rob as being cut from somewhat of a similar cloth, but Conrad is really just a very fun player to watch, and he's drawn a bingo through that O of Niobate at the very least. So let's see if that stays open. How is Rob going to navigate his pretty unappealing rack here with too many vowels and nowhere to really do much of anything with them?
A quick thing I'll note is Conrad has also been known to take advantage of his opponent's weaknesses, whatever he thinks they are. Specifically, he can play really fast against slow players. And I think there's a real chance that as he sees Rob burning his clock, that Conrad's going to pile the pressure on. I love this quote from Z-Web Chess. Conrad will take you into a deep, dark forest where all your heuristics break down. That is just, you got to frame that one because
that's actually true. That is beautifully said, and it is actually true.
That's what we were trying to say, but in one sentence. So maybe we should be switching places. We got to play.
Oh no, that is valid. Actually, for some reason, my immediate reaction was, "Wait a second, is this good?" But yeah, it is good. Unbone, to remove the bones from seems pretty normal.
Hard not to giggle there. We'll maintain our
Well,
composure,
we definitely had some giggle-worthy words yesterday. Hey, it's Scrabble. We're trying to straddle that line between the giggle-worthy words and the words that maybe we don't want on the board. But either way, Conrad with now a second location to play Romancer. And Jesse, I feel like this is the exact sort of nuance of why would Conrad play Romancer through this O as opposed to the O of Niobate. I'm sure he has a great reason why.
If I were going to approximate it, well, first of all, he was going to play it fast always because he's already seen that Rob took a couple minutes on that first turn. But it blocks all the eights from Niobate, right? So OBATE, all unplayable. Kind of need to either overlap on row 7 or hook Niobates. It's already getting harder to bingo, and it's only going to get harder if Conrad's in the lead.
Yeah, it's just he played that so quickly, and that, as you alluded to, is definitely that sort of instinct to so quickly make the play that yields fewer opportunities for Rob in response. Just try to visualize, if you're watching out there, Romancer through the O of Niobate instead. That leaves the A, the T, and the E of Niobate completely untouched for Rob, whereas this positioning of Romancer obstructs all of those to a very, very large degree. So making that play, not only making the correct play, but as Jesse said, making it instantaneously, that's what we like to see here.
Yeah, and these kinds of things can seem so minute. It's like, is this worth optimizing? And then somehow you go down this road with Conrad and you get to the end of the game and you say, I appear to be losing by 50 and I have nowhere to place a bingo at all. How did we get to this point? So
Yes.
he's already architecting this board into his preferred shape.
Yep, I have been down that aforementioned dark forest road as well, many times. So yeah, it's bewildering out there. But you just gotta, if you're Rob, you gotta stick to your guns and say to yourself, "Hey, I can play. I'm a good player. I'm gonna stay the course. It's way too early to panic," as you alluded to earlier, Jesse. Objectively speaking, maybe this is one of those 25% of games where your opponent just opened with 2 bingos. It could be, and I don't have a good rack, right? If I'm sitting there as Rob, I'm saying this feels like one of that unwinnable games, but it's not helpful for him to entertain that idea. He has to keep pushing. He needs to try to come back and somehow steal a win away in this game. Yes. With 3 other players at 11 wins here.
Yes, and he needs to not only score, he's down 120, so but he's not going to get that all back at once. The most important thing is that he figures out how to keep an open, dynamic board, which is a strength of his. An option I see, for instance, is playing Refuel down from the R on column C. Can't say that's the best, but thematically, it's a good idea because it just opens new threats, opens a triple-triple. Basically, Conrad will kind of be forced to deal with that quadrant of the board, and it'll leave other areas untouched. The leave of that is not so good, though, so he's going to have to make some tough choices, and he's already used 6 minutes of his clock.
Yeah, as you said before, Jesse, I expect Conrad to go into that blitz mode where he starts playing, solid moves. Maybe he doesn't go into that deep of the calculation to come up with the perfectly optimal move, knowing that if he can push Rob into a time pressure situation, he's going to reap the benefits of that by far compared to these little tiny nuances at the top end of those plays. But just want to shout out that to Z-Web Chess. Thank you so much. It's very generous for the tier 1 subscription and also for the steady stream of extremely insightful comments in the chat. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you, Z-Web Chess. Thank you. The thing it is that Conrad can just do his thinking on Rob's time. Like, he probably already has his ideal play kind of lined up right now, although he is going to have to adjust based on Rob actually playing Refuel here. And Conrad can't really punish that. So a lot of times people are scared to open these triple word score spots. But look, if you're down 120, you need some stuff to go your way. So I like this move quite a bit. Let's see if he can pull an S, hit Niobates. It's a good opportunity for Rob here.
Yeah, it is a good opportunity. And what you're hoping for Rob is that Conrad have basically the exact type of rack that he does have. Yeah. A rack that doesn't really score particularly well and doesn't offer him that useful opportunities to play through that L of Refuel. That's definitely Conrad's top priority now. And you can see Rob picking that critical S, and he will be able to play something with it, whether it's Odious and Niobates or something else. So things are turning around bit by bit for Rob to make this more of a game.
big time. And Conrad is going to be in an interesting position here where he can play something like Gila and keep a bingo prone lead like AILR. But with a lead like this, if you miss your bingos a few times in a row and you just keep scoring 20 points, that's the kind of thing that gives your opponent a chance to sneak back into it. So I don't really see what else he's going to do, but there's a reason he's tanking on this move, because he doesn't want to just score 15 and hope he can bingo. He'd prefer to, I think his dream play would be something down from the C. I suspect that's where a lot of his thinking is going at this exact moment.
It's a great point that the danger of these low point racks that Conrad has that are kind of close to bingoing but not quite there. You do get into some situations where you just draw that type of rack over and over, scoring 20 per turn as your opponent sort of mounts that comeback. It does feel disheartening. You feel like it's, even if you're making all the quote unquote right moves, those comebacks are hard to stave off sometimes.
Oh my goodness. Great call from the chat. Oh, this is why Conrad's a top player. He's just spotted Aria sandwiched between Niobate and Romancer.
Oh
wow!
If he plays that would.
And Niobate. Oh my goodness! You'd need an almost psychic understanding of what your opponent has. I think he's not going to do it because I think just the painfulness of getting tripled on is gonna make him pick something on the bottom row. But if he plays Aria, that'd be just a next level play. Whew.
Yeah, I don't think Aria allows anything. I see a comment in the chat that it allows Toasty, but I don't. Oh, does it? No. Wow. No, but no, it's not. It's not Toia. It would be TIE, not TOE. So
I bet Conrad's going to switch this. He's. I don't know it for sure, but Aria is actually such a solid score.
It does score 24. A bunch more too. It's just, oh man, is he gonna go ahead and switch this up? I mean, of course, again, it's important for everybody to realize that we're sitting here with the full knowledge of both players' racks, and it's easy for us to say. It's it's so logical for Conrad to block this L. But the fact that he's even considering Aria in that space between Niobate and Romancer is so impressive, frankly, because I would be liable to autopilot this and just play Gila here. Oh my God.
Goodness, he's gonna do it.
Wow. This is amazing. This is amazing. If he actually finds it in himself here to play Aria, that's just amazing.
I could see him talking himself into it because that L is not so easy to play through, actually. If that's not so easy to bingo through. The worst case scenarios are pretty bad, but Aria does accomplish it. It just makes the board so blocked up afterwards. You can't play down from the C. You can't play bingos on row 7. Aria feels like a Conrad play if he can get himself to.
I will say that if Aria, or if there were a play in that spot that somehow also blocked the S hook on Niobates,
then Ariel, he would the font. I'm just kidding. That's not Scrabble accessible.
Right. All right. He ends up playing Gila. Wow. You can't fault him for this. This makes every bit of sense. As Natalie Zed says in the chat, hello, Natalie, by the way, with that lead, wouldn't you block the 9-timer? Well, the 2 triple word scores down there? Of course you would, right? That's definitely a threat, and he's blocked it. But that would have been amazing to see him somehow block off. It's not only just obstructing the letters of Niobate and Romancer, preventing plays down from the C, but you also do block a few bingos like Niobates
Yes.
and then ST, which is exactly what Rob has. So I would love to see Rob make a play quickly, but over to Conrad's rack, you can see good draw for him.
Yes.
So
I think that there is a question about whether blocking the triple triple is always right. There's a lot of ways. It's very early going. There are a lot of ways back into this, into contention. Triple triples are merely the quickest way of doing so. So Aria could be defensible long term, but Conrad's going to know immediately that he could have blocked all the bingos with this rack, and he's going to. Well, he's not going to rue things too long because he's just going to play a bingo. But an interesting moment.
yeah, really fascinating. He has this blank here, but not a ton of bingos playable here. I, of course, sorry to burst everybody's bubble out there, I am using the computer engine to help me come up with plays here. Some of the time I try to do it on my own. But yeah, Deprival through that E of Refuel feels like the best choice here. Pretty crazy one. Zooglia pointing out a second bingo if he doesn't see that through the A of Odious. The rank of sergeant in the Indian Army, Havildar.
But it's an Urdu word, which is an interesting twist on that.
True. So yeah, a couple options here. Frankly, either one of those has. I don't think Havildar really has any negatives positionally. Deprival scores a lot more points, but does put a pretty nice combination of letters right on top of a triple word score. So we'll
we've already seen Conrad's willingness to seriously consider board shape versus pure points. So I think there's a real chance that Havildar actually goes down, blocking more real estate. Although there's also the goatiest hook on the top row that we shouldn't forget about. But I think Havildar would gobble up a lot of space on this board. And I think, assuming Conrad sees both, I think there's a real chance we see Havildar.
The only thing that I worry about is that Havildar, certainly a much more obscure word. I would say he's likelier to know and find Deprival just because it's a little bit more. We were talking earlier about what words are players liable to know as Scrabble players at this level. And Havildar is a little obscure, but I actually think Conrad likely knows both, so I'm not too worried about that. But if one of the two words were one that he wasn't familiar with, it would definitely be Havildar. He knows Deprival for sure.
I think Conrad will know both, and
I agree.
I think he is spending a lot of time here, not because he can't find a bingo, but because he's trying to pick the optimal one, and he knows this is a fairly big turning point.
So interesting, our prediction about the time usage here. It turns out that just through difficult positions for Conrad, his time has actually gotten lower than Rob's. We'll see if that trend continues throughout the game. Last game, of course, if you're just tuning in, we saw Rob Robinsky defeat Evan Borofsky in round 17, and Rob was very low on his clock almost from the get-go. So having that time edge must feel nice for him here as he does a little bit of calisthenics, cracking that neck.
Got to stay flexible for whatever's coming next, indeed.
Absolutely. These athletes out there. Actually, we joke, but there is for sure the same way there is in chess or any other quote-unquote mind sport. It's tiring to be out there using this much brain power. So there definitely is a physical component. Not saying that, these are world-class athletes or anything like that. But this game is draining to play this long. So there is for sure a physical component.
Right. I'm not sure that I buy the whole burning 5,000 calories a day thing through thinking, but I did wear a fitness tracker to last year's national championship. And in terms of recovery, basically the how I felt the next day from the strain of the previous day, it was consistently as low as the hardest workouts I've ever done.
Yeah. The thing that I say is that after a long day of Scrabble, it feels like my brain is a degree or two warmer than usual. It feels like the inside of my head is warm. I don't know if that's
Yes.
Can anyone corroborate that feeling? Does anyone else feel that? Jesse, would you agree with that?
Well, not only would I agree with that, but the best player in the world, unequivocally, Nigel Richards, is known for his total composure, stillness while playing. And every so often, when we've had an especially good game, I will notice when I shake hands with him that his palm is slightly moist. And that is how I know that I have pushed him to the limit. Possibly too much information, but...
Damn, that's beautiful. That is some serious scouting report there. So I will keep that in mind next time I get a Nigel handshake.
Don't ask him about it directly. He might be a little bit confused if you ask him about moist palms. But
yeah, but interesting. Okay, so Conrad, thinking for a few minutes, we were pretty confident that he was going to find one of his two choices there. Frankly, though, it's often the case that if you can get a decent score and not use the blank and try to come up with something better on your future turn, it's not that big of a drop off. But I do think that this clearly reflects that Conrad just didn't generate either of those two choices here. I don't think Venal is better than either bingo.
And Conrad runs away from the table. Players are allowed a mid-game restroom break, which might surprise people from other competitive sporting events. But Conrad was not able to look at his last three tiles. So the notion is that he's not going to go and furiously consult his anagram checker in the loo. But I think the important thing for Conrad is not so much whether he missed or found that bingo, but how he reacts to it. If he gets frustrated or if he thinks, man, I really should have had one, that kind of thought can consume you the rest of the game. He just has to shake it off and get his bingo when he gets the chance. But it's also interesting that Rob can score, but it's not immediately clear to me if he has a bingo or not. I don't have the gift of omniscience that you have on this one.
My gut was telling me that I don't necessarily think Rob has anything. Sometimes my gut leads me astray there, but in fact, he does not have playable bingos here. So that being said, he has pretty nice spots to pop off that K and or the P for pretty good scores. Even just something like Kep on top of Gila through the E of Refuel is going to be pretty good, right? That's going to score quite well and leave really good bingo tiles.
Yes. His options are plentiful.
Would it be a consideration for Rob to play his eye off in that same spot? Could he play Kepi, which is also a valid word, in order to create a new bingo lane for himself? Or is there already enough on the board that he can keep that eye, which is a good bingo tile when you just have the one on your rack? I'm thinking about it. I think there's enough action on this board that I would probably keep the eye.
Yeah, blanks are pretty interesting because they kind of make the importance of the rest of your tiles a little bit less so because you're more flexible. So normally if you had DET and you could add an I to that, you'd say, yes, give me the I. Like that's a very balanced set of letters. But holding the blank, it doesn't quite matter as it's almost a risk aversion thing in some ways where if you have the blank and you draw 6 new tiles, you could draw a Q, a J. So this, I was thinking he might do kept. The thing about this
the blank makes him more flexible, but he could draw junk to this. So this is a pretty interesting gamble, I would say.
Yeah, he's put that K out in space. You never know. I don't know. It's hard to read too much into Conrad's last few plays, whether or not you have to be worried about opening a K. So amazingly, you guys have already pointed out a great bingo opportunity for Conrad through the T and E of Niobates and Romancer. He can play Dithering. And
Yes.
that amazingly, this is kind of weird to say, but that's the only bingo available here for Conrad. So either he sees that play through the T and E, or he'll have to figure out something else. I'm not sure what he'll elect to do, if not that.
We're not going to see another 7-minute tank here. That's for sure, because the letters are worse. He has fewer options. He's either going to see dithering or not, I would say. I would also point out,
oh, he played that pretty fast. Okay, Hid comes down. It's not really that much worse than dithering. A good rule of thumb for the blank is 25 to 30 points. So when you got Hid for 26, dithering would have been about 65, 70. That's not a massive error, but it does add up.
Yeah, especially with the previous turn as well, where it seemed a little more cut and dried that either Deprival or Havildar would have been the choice there. This one a little closer. Hid certainly scoring nicely, but that X draw for Conrad is in a vacuum. You certainly like to see that X much of the time. Maybe not so much when you have that blank and you're trying to get a bingo down as quickly as you can. Maybe he's got a nice X play somewhere.
He could play to XU, that U on column 4.
True.
You could put, so, but a good rule of thumb, as with all heuristics, it works 100% of the time, 90% of the time, but you generally want to get your bingos down fast. This is cutting into Conrad's time for playing his next bingo. You know, you kind of just have to keep churning out bingos. He's now spent 2 turns with this blank on his rack, and that's just kind of cutting down on his ability to actually build a lead here. He's kind of just stalling. So he really has got to. This is going to be a 3rd turn without a bingo potentially. He's really just got to get one down and move on.
There is a time factor too that, you know, if I have a blank on my rack and I'm looking over at the clock and, you know, Rob's got the same situation going on here. There's still pretty much a half of the entire game still to go, and these players are well under half of their clocks. So the blank is definitely a tile that is a time suck to use appropriately. You have to consider, you know, depending on the situation, you might have to go through the entire alphabet and come up with, do I have a good play with this letter, that letter, A, B, C, D, all the way through? That takes a lot of time. And it's very possible that on the previous turn, Conrad looked through all of the most obvious places, the K, the E of refuel, 7-letter words hooking onto the board, and said, I don't have anything, and said, I got to go, right? I don't have that much time. I can't be looking through the T and E of Niobates and Romancer for things because the odds are not good that there is anything. It just happened in this situation that was where his bingo was.
Yes, that was good discipline on his part. I think our viewers, our insightful viewers, have a good idea for Conrad's next move, which is just to burn the blank for coxing. For what would that be?
It
69 points. And I think he's going to want to do that. I mean, he's already struggled to bingo for 3 turns because the board is really clogged. So what's a good workaround? Just score bingo-like points with the X.
Yeah, that's, you know, the point of the blank is not necessarily to bingo. That is the majority of the way that it is used at this level. But if you can score 69 points with it here, that's as good or better than some 7 or 8 letter plays that you can make. So it's definitely warranted. He may even feel happy simply to be rid of it for that type of score. You're getting almost 70 points, and now you no longer have to worry about iterating through the alphabet. Oh, man, but is he going to try to find an ing word through Rob's last play?
That
so
could
you
be
could
a time suck.
That's
right
another
there.
time. That's another time suck possibility here. So anyway, Rob's previous play of IDE seemed sensible there. It scored a nice amount of points for him. Got rid of at least one I. He had 3 of them. Excuse me. I think I like that play, but yeah, another brutal situation for Conrad as he has to sort of evaluate, do I have anything through KI that lets me score a massive amount of points?
He just has to put some kind of a time cap for himself. Say, okay, when the clock hits 9, I'm making the best play that I've already seen, or something along those lines. It's a decent heuristic to force yourself to action. But yeah, I do want to. I think I kind of overlooked Rob's play, but I think it was subtly good. I mean, that looked like a terrible rack, leaving IIO blank. But if you look now, Rob quite likely has a bingo going down. So that blank is really kind of the cure of all wrongs. And IDE was actually 27 points.
Surprisingly
so
high.
27 points, and then bingoing is a nice little sequence there. So good for Rob for just taking the points and not fixating too much about cleaning up the rack. I think I really like that choice.
Yeah, it does certainly, the blank is the healer of wrongs, but also the 2 S's coming out is very helpful for Rob.
That's a good bonus, yes.
Yeah, that'll help a bit. But yeah, this is, we know that, as you said earlier, Jesse, Conrad, if he needs to shift into blitz mode, he will lose very little off of his overall game by doing so. I think both of us are fully aware of that, and he's going to play liking up there at the top of the board instead of coxing, and he's going to hold on to both the X and the blank, and he looks like he's in agony about this.
Oh, that really surprises me. He must really be fixating on that triple. Otherwise, I think he would see
coxing and just pounce on a chance to get rid of the X. But here we go. RX blank. Very interesting.
So, yeah, will he get another opportunity? Maybe he'll draw something that plays, as you mentioned, to that XU spot on unbone. Of course, with that blank in hand, you were mentioning it earlier that when you have a blank, it kind of heightens the importance of those other tiles. Will you, sometimes there are racks where you have a blank that it feels kind of constricting. Oh, man, what are we? Wow, phenomenal play here. Insidious. That is absolutely beautiful by Rob Robinsky here. Wow, Jesse.
Man, what a treat.
Tremendous play. There was one other 7-letter bingo for him there, but
Simius.
Failing that, this is just a beautiful, beautiful choice, and this has all the style points that you could imagine here.
Wow. That's a treat.
Great play by Rob. Puts him up temporarily in the scoreboard. Of course, Conrad still has a lot of ammo here between that X and the blank. So this is a key draw for Rob. Let's see what he picked. Wow, great first tile to pick, the Z.
Not bad at all.
Is he going to get some vowels to go with it? Oh, not so much. Okay.
Interesting.
Liked where things were going with that Z. And Conrad's going to pop axe down, leaving EIRR blank. The 2 R's, not the best, but the rest of it, his bingo chances are very, very good here.
They're good, but the board is not super good for bingos. Even when Conrad gets this bingo down, it's only going to be something like 60, 65 points. So Rob's got a golden opportunity here to hang on if he can navigate this interesting, vaguely Germanic mess of Iraq.
True. Yeah, we have, maybe Alex Dings in the chat can help us come up with something here. But Conrad's drawn pretty well. I'm sure he'll be bingoing somewhere next turn. Something like, I think upraiser is a word.
Yes.
From that U. So that's...
Or he can play Alp and play across. The question that Conrad could sink even more time into is if there's anything significantly better than that. But there's not really so much to... I was going to say, if any of our viewers are interested in trying to find a 10-letter word through the S, the A, and the C.
Have at it. Yeah, have at it, folks.
Let us know how that goes.
Play worth noting that I feel extremely confident I would not see in this scenario for Rob.
Must be a good play then.
Would just be, it's pretty nice. From the MA of Romancer and Venal, you could play Mazut, Mazut, making Fez, and that would score 31 points on this board. Somehow you're somehow going to get a 30-point score with that play. That is a very snazzy play. I don't think I would see it. Instead this makes a lot of sense as well to get rid of one of the two W's. I think this is the more quote-unquote human play, as the chess players might be familiar with.
I think this might even be as good as Mazut, simply because the HRTW combo has a little bit of synergy to it. If you throw in the right vowel into there, he draws an O or an E. He could play a big play down to the S. And I have applied the commentary, the announcer's jinx, and stood in the way of him drawing one of those vowels. But I think the principle of it was good. And even when Conrad bingoes here, Rob's going to be right in there with a chance.
That S of Insidious is sitting open for far longer than I would have expected. As Conrad plays Aspirer, that is his highest scoring bingo, putting the P on the double letter score, the entire word on the double word score, 75 points. That's big for him here. But if I'm Conrad, I feel pretty grateful that Rob somehow had the Z, but no way to extend it to that top of the H column, to that S of Insidious. That in so many cases is going to yield a lot of points back, but Rob wasn't able to fit anything there, and it doesn't look like he has anything there now either.
Yes, he's down 87, but the minor saving grace here is that Conrad has picked up the Q, and that will slow him down slightly. But I can't really say Rob has done too much wrong so far, but this is a little bit daunting. One possibility here: are there S's remaining? Because he could consider doing something like hurt, making HE and UR, and try to
draw that last S.
Exactly. Or at least make Conrad, give Conrad something to think about, because otherwise there's not a lot going on. And if he does do that, he might be able to draw Jowers or a big J play to the S.
True.
So I think that's what I would do.
I certainly expect now at this score that Conrad is going to be less worried about closing the threats that remain and just continuing to pile on the points. So if I'm Rob, I definitely expect that Conrad's going to play to that S if he has any way of doing so. So I do expect to play like decoys to come down there, even though it puts a D in a slightly dangerous spot, just because It's going to score really well and keep Conrad up by enough that pretty much any bingo isn't a real threat to him. But we do see the play you suggested, Jesse, of hurt. I do like this idea.
Yeah, and even if Conrad plays decoys here, which he almost certainly will, he still is going to have the Q, so it's not over yet.
True. That Q is going to be annoying to deal with. So maybe will he try to, I don't really know what he's supposed to do other than plop it on the eye of Insidious, which doesn't really feel that great. Let's see what that, Rob's tiles are, he didn't draw that S. So probably at some point we'll want to get the tracking up so you guys can all see what the players are looking at.
Yeah, Will and I don't actually need tracking. We just kind of keep that stuff in our head.
Oh yeah, I can look at the board and within a second or two, I can know the tiles that are unseen. That's what I'm working with mentally.
Affirmative.
No, just kidding. Definitely not. I don't think even the Nigels of the world can do that. Though somebody once told me that Adam Logan tracks in blitz. Like
Can't
over
tell
the
if
board.
that's a Chuck Norris rumor or genuinely true. I have no idea.
Over the board blitz, which is just unheard of. Conrad quickly arranged his letters into Cytoad through the T of hurt, which is a really interesting option. Of course, we were just talking about Conrad feeling like he just wants to score a bunch of points. Oh, decoy there. That's so Conradly.
Yes.
Of course he's going to play it there instead of to the S.
It's also the same number of points, but I think it's going to give a big J play back. So this is actually the beginning of a game changer potentially for Rob.
Yeah, that's true. So that I should have generated that as an alternative to Insidious for sure. Conrad, of course, is going to play in the slightly safer spot. Not as many, easy bingo lanes yielded by this as opposed to decoys to the S of Insidious. Not only the D, a very good tile to end words in ED, but also the E of decoys there would be very hittable too. So this makes a lot of sense here for Conrad. He's just so sharp positionally with decisions like that, Jesse.
Absolutely. And how many tiles left do we have now? Is this up to date? There are eight tiles in the bag, 15 tiles unseen. Does that seem right?
Yes, that's correct. At least I think it is. Let me save this because I think that's can't be correct. Let me save it and see if it looks more accurate.
So Rob is in some trouble here. He's down 100 points, and that's when you start, in my opinion, getting especially creative, or you have to start thinking about what can I possibly do to steal this game? And what I would be thinking about in his shoes is, I think if he could pull that S, he doesn't know that Conrad has the S, but if he could pull that S, he's actually not that far away from bingos on the right side, like oversaw, overso. Is over so good with an O? It is.
It is, yeah, it is.
I think he could do something like, he could either play the JY off, or he can play Joey for 44 and then try to draw over so. He's going to keep the J.
And he plays Vrow on the left side. You could play that word on the right side for 13 more points. But he's playing it there, presumably just to, create a threatening line on the triple lane, I guess. I don't know.
I don't see it with his tiles. I think he had to ditch the J there to give himself a chance, in my opinion. Although he might have been trying to draw the J play for making JO and IU at B6, which would be 60 points if he can do it. But I don't think he has enough time to do that.
The funny thing here is that I actually was considering that he had decent chances. If he played Vrow on the opposite side of the word, he had decent chances to draw the word JV through the V there.
Right, but
Which
still not enough points is the
still
thing.
not, yeah, it still doesn't really matter. I guess as we were saying earlier, all these plays that might cut the deficit in this game matter a little bit in terms of that tiebreaker we were discussing. But Rob's needing a win here, right? He definitely wants to win above all else, and yeah, it's tough. I don't know if I see the pathway as Conrad makes a great play to close everything up at once.
Is it possible that he was going for overjoys? That was a suggestion from the chat. Well, he played off the letters to do it.
Yeah, there were no R's for him to come, so I don't think that was an option.
Could he have fished for overjoy? Is there any reasonable way he could have accomplished that? There isn't really a spot for it, so...
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, maybe could try to go for it through the E of decoy and try to play overjoys through there. I don't know. It's no plan seems like it had that great of a chance of working. Actually, the JA pick is kind of nice. So maybe I feel like Vrow in that spot is if you want to keep the J, maybe you want to try to play fewer tiles.
Yes.
So that then if you are able to draw that A, you can play Joe and Ayu for a really big score, and then maybe somehow follow up with the S draw and bingo with Hertz. I don't know. There's not enough tiles in the bag to execute such a long plan like that.
Yeah, a good principle when you're trailing is to slow the game down. Because the game ends when the last person plays their tiles. So if you want to pull off a big comeback, you have to sort of cram in as many points as you can into the remaining moves. So I think Vrow played off too many letters and it kept the J, which is a problem tile. I still, not to keep beating my own drum, but I think the oversow plan was a pretty good one. And I would be, if I had the chance to go talk to Rob afterwards, I would ask him if he thought about that.
Yeah, certainly drawing that last S. I don't know. I mean, if you're Rob, can you infer by the way that Conrad is not addressing the Hertz hook at all? Can you infer anything about the likelihood of him having that S? I mean, it almost doesn't matter. You kind of need it. It
doesn't matter.
You just need it. You're not winning without it. So you basically have to eliminate all the other scenarios where Conrad already has it, and just imagine that he doesn't, and that I'm going to draw it. Right? That's your winning plan here. As he does play J for a very large score, 60 points. To cut the gap quite a bit here. Certainly nowhere close to winning the game.
That'll help him stay in contention in the tournament a little bit.
For sure, yeah. That tiebreaker's still very, very relevant. Good question. Was there any idea of a Q stick? I don't know. I mean, the problem with the Q stick plan is that you're down by so much that it doesn't really matter anyway. So...
right. You probably have to be, for newer viewers, Q stick means that if you can't play the Q, then you end up giving the value of that tile twice over to your opponent. And not only that, but you can literally just play one tile at a time across the board while you sit there passing with your sad Q. So that when someone says, could there have been a Q stick, that's basically, could you block all the places on the board where the Q goes, such that Conrad has to eat the Q at the end and you can score tons of points by placing your letters wherever you see fit. But usually that's going to get you more in the 50 to 60 ballpark and not 100 in my experience. But with that said, there was only one Q spot. So that's probably what Rob was thinking about is, wait a second, can I block the Q and save my J play?
Yeah. So to that point, there really is only the one spot, and Conrad dumps off the queue there by itself. And this is actually going to get pretty scary, if only for a moment, as Rob plays off Feg for 45 points,
Yes.
bringing him to within 10 on the scoreboard, actually. But Conrad is going to simply score decently well with that S, and he will remain and head by just enough. Suggestion from Ancient Cosmographer to try and liking here. It's creative. If you feel like going for that win above the spread points is important, you could try and liking at that top part of the board, but I don't think that's as much of a chance of working.
He has chosen not to give that one a go, creative as it was.
So yeah, instead he just plays out with Sen, S-E-N, and man, another really close, interesting game with a ton of cool stuff. I mean, kudos for Insidious. That's one of the nicest plays I've seen, certainly on this stream and probably in general in my career of commentating. Amazing job by Rob. But Conrad pulled it out, Jesse. A lot of those tactical plays you were referring to from him.
Yeah, he's got to be really glad that his slowdowns in the middle of the game with that blank didn't cost him too much. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how this tournament shakes out. This is only going to complicate matters because, if I'm not mistaken, Conrad was not part of that leading pack of 4 players on 11 wins. So
you're right.
We're kind of just creating a singularity where everyone has the same number of wins, and things might end up getting decided by one giant bingo or rock, paper, scissors or...
Yeah, it's still pretty much a total chaos at that top group. Have to point out a result from round 18 that just came in between Evan Borofsky and Austin Shin. Get a load of this score. Evan Borofsky 484 to Austin Shin's 478.
Wow.
Losing with a 478 can't feel good for Austin. Man, I mean, we saw an amazing game, but I'm sure that one was also a treat to watch. Someday, maybe we'll be able to watch tons of games all at once. Yeah, that's a big result that moves Evan Borofsky up to 12 wins. Rob had his chance here to keep pace, but Conrad nipped him there by just a few points. So Evan Borofsky looks like he's going to be the lone 12-win player. Actually, that's not true. If Erickson Smith wins his game, he could join him, and that result does not appear to be in yet. So still complete chaos at the top group.
Should we send our cameraman over there to zoom in dramatically on Erickson as he makes his final plays? The answer is we cannot.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to cut to us here in the booth momentarily, but Erickson was in the background of Rob's player cam there. Couldn't read much from his behavior, but that doesn't say very much. He's pretty a cool customer. So
indeed,
another great game, a couple results still to come that are going to make a big difference in what games we watch going forward. But either way, it feels like the blowouts of yesterday are a thing of the past, and these first 2 games have been incredibly entertaining, Jesse.
Absolutely. We're going to witness some real thinking Scrabble, and that's juxtaposed with the pressure of converging on the end of the tournament. And I think you can see it with how hard the players are really agonizing on some of these decisions. Yeah. So it's a real treat.
You can see that body language. You see a lot of hands on heads. You see a lot of pursed lips, agonized body language, all of it. So yeah, for those asking, in the NWL division, it looks like Josh Sokol, Axer Typo, our fave from this channel, is very, very close to being on the cusp of clinching things over in the NWL division. So Josh is at 14 wins with a big chunk of spread, and trailing behind him, Dean Saldana and Ori Swift with 13 wins, but very, very significantly less spread as the tiebreaker. So Josh, a win and a big chunk of spread up there. He's right on the cusp of clinching. So the Collins division significantly murkier right now. And I think what we're going to do, as usual, is getting producer word here.
Oh, what I said was impossible may actually be feasible, folks.
The
first
Ericsson
in
cam.
Scrabble streaming history, our brave cameraman might actually be converging on Ericsson Smith.
Wow, Ericsson cam. We know about on my personal stream, we have something called cat cam where I look at my cats, but Ericsson cam is the next level in streaming technology.
There's
Let's
one
see.
big cat.
He is a big cat. We were talking yesterday, Jesse, about who the tallest players in North American Scrabble are, and there he is.
Yes.
Ericsson Smith, definitely a strong contender. Let's see if we can figure out. I don't know. He's entering in. It looks like Ericsson is entering in you see the Collins Coalition has this very nice system for entering scores, and it looks like Ericsson is, as the winner of the game, you are the one that fills that out and offers it to your opponent, as they're also doing some post-morteming here.
Well, Alex mentions that the body language does not look like a win. That's kind of just Ericsson. As far as I can tell, he's pretty stoic. So I think we're pretty much going to need to just ask him.
Yeah, we'll get that info. I think my gut tells me that Ericsson came away with a win there, so he's going to move up to 12 wins to join Evan Borofsky. Very possible we'll see that matchup coming up next round. Either way, huge kudos to Ericsson Smith hanging in there with some of the luminaries of Collins Scrabble in North America here. I'm very impressed by his performance here.
Absolutely. One of the interesting and slightly sad features of our game is that we've kind of gone 2 or 3 years without big in-person tournaments. So people have potentially been in the lab honing their skills this whole time, and we're just seeing the evidence of it for the first time. So Ericsson could well be one of those players who's kind of taken the jump, or is now someone who we just have to think of as one of the top experts. Well, we're going to find out.
I have been impressed with him. We've seen him a number of times on stream, and he has played very solid, mistake-free for the most part. He made a few plays that we were kind of raving about here in the booth. So definitely feels like he belongs in that top group. So maybe what we'll do now is we'll confirm, has he actually won that previous game? And if so, we're likely to see him. And if not, we're going to have another awesome matchup from the top tangle of players in the Collins division at the 2023 Crescent City Cup. We'll take a little break now and come back with round 19 shortly.